What is death and what happens afterwards? The question about death and what happens after we die is probably as old as human history. The fear of death is one of the most common fears out there, right after the fear of loneliness. We fear death because we don't know what's going to happen afterwards, and we're scared that we're going to lose our loved ones forever. There was a time in my life where I was really scared of death, and I didn't want to talk about it. I didn't even want to think about it. I thought if I just don't mention it at all, it's never going to happen. But it did. And it does, every single day. How many people do you think die on average each day on planet Earth? A. 60,000, B. 140,000, or C. 220,000? 140,000 people die each day worldwide. Through the eyes of science, death is a part of nature. We have to die, so there's place for the new. As soon as we die, our body starts decomposing, and we become one with nature again. Traditional science sees death as nothingness, no awareness. It says that consciousness is gone after the brain is dead. But is that true? My first close encounter with death was when my grandma died a few years ago. I remember I went into the room and I saw her lying there on the bed, just like she was lying there the day before, and I kissed her forehead just I did the day before. But it wasn't her anymore. Her body was just empty. And I had this innate feeling to walk outside of the room and walk into the living room. And she loved her living room. And as soon as I sat down on the couch, I could feel this wind blowing into my face, and I was smelling her perfume, and I got goosebumps all over my body and tears coming in my eyes. And I just knew, I just felt that she was there with me in the living room. Dr. Samparnia from the University at Southampton is a renowned expert on the studies of human mind and consciousness during clinical death. Nearly 40% of the patients that came back to life after being clinically dead remembered what has happened while their brain showed no activity. What do you think they experienced? A. Nothing. When the brain doesn't show any activity, our senses are not working. B. They felt calm and peace. C. Being clinically dead felt more real than reality. D. They felt like moving upward in a tube toward a light source. And E. They were floating outside their body and watching the doctor and nurses. Nearly 90% of people with near-death experiences tell about a feeling of peace and calm. They say their experience felt more real than reality. Some felt a sensation moving upward through a light tunnel, and others felt like they're floating outside their body, watching the doctor and nurses operating on them, even remembering accurate details of what has happened in the surgery room while they were clinically dead. Even though the brain showed no detectable activity, there was still some kind of consciousness that was aware of what was happening. If our consciousness continues to exist after our body dies, where are we going? Let's look at religion. Contrary to science, religion doesn't question if there's a consciousness after death. The soul lives on after our body dies. They all agree with that. However, what exactly happens afterwards, there are some differences between the religions. Let's look over it. Christianity and Islam believe that after we die, we are being judged for our good deeds and sins, and the believers go to heaven, the non-believers go to hell. You only live once. You have one chance. If you mess it up, you'll be in hell for eternity. Judaism believes that you can get a second go if you weren't able to finish your mission. That means you can be reborn a second time and try again. Hinduism and Buddhism believe that you are being reborn until you've reached enlightenment. Enlightenment gets you out of the circle of life and death, and you reunite with the source. Now the big question is, what about YOLO? You only live once. Hinduism says, just as a man discards worn-out clothes and puts on new clothes, the soul discards worn-out bodies and wears new ones. Is it that easy? Research in the area of past lives have shown tremendous and amazing results, where it is almost undeniable that reincarnation is real. Many researchers around the world are investigating claims made by people who say to remember their past lives. What is the age range of the majority of people who remember their past lives? A. 20 to 29 years old, B. 70 to 89 years old, or C. 2 to 6 years old. Children between the ages of 2 to 6 years old are most inclined to have past life memories, especially if their past life ended in a sudden death. Nearly 20% of them show birthmarks or deformities that are correlating to injuries of their past life. When a child gives enough accurate details, parents and researchers are even able to find the past life family of the child and introduce them to each other. Often the child is able to remember all of the family members' names, and even accurate details and secrets that only the past life family would know. There's another way to research past lives, through hypnosis. Hypnosis is a way to contact our subconscious, to contact memories that we are unaware of, like our past lives. Hypnotherapists like Dr. Brian Weiss and Dr. Michael Newton have both made the experience that their patients, instead of going back to their childhood memories, went back to past life memories. And again, birthmarks, illnesses, fears, and behavior patterns show correlations to injuries and experiences of the past life. For example, there was one lady, and she always had trouble with her hips, and doctors just didn't know where the pain came from. So she went to the hypnotherapist, and under hypnosis, she was able to recall a life where she was somewhere in the 18th century, and a carriage drove over her and broke her hip. And after understanding where the pain actually came from, she was able to heal her hip in this present lifetime. Some patients were able to remember how to do things they've never done before or learned about, like, for example, how to balm dead bodies in ancient Egypt, or how to speak another language. Usually talents that you have in this lifetime stem from talents that you had in your past lives, because that's where you gained the experience. When you go into a foreign country and you feel at home, even though you've never been there before, usually it is because you've lived there before in one of your past lives. When you meet someone that you've never met before, but you feel like you've known each other forever, it's probably because you've met in one of your past lives. Every single one of us had at least one past life. And if you're still watching this video, that just shows that you had a good amount of past lives. Otherwise, you would have already stopped or clicked the dislike button. If you have trouble believing reincarnation, don't worry. You're not alone. Even hypnotherapists and the patients that went under hypnosis did not believe in the concept of rebirth until they really experienced their past lives. As soon as the patients went under hypnosis and experienced their past life as real as reality, with real emotion, pain, as well as a higher understanding of the overall picture, everyone knew it was the truth. Hypnotherapist Dr. Brian Weiss was first skeptical and thought maybe it's just wishful thinking or dreaming, or they're trying to be famous from it. But when there was one patient, and he describes that in his famous book, Many Lives, Many Masters, which is very recommendable to read. One patient changed his life because she went into her past lives and she was able to receive messages from the space between lives and give accurate details about the hypnotherapist's dead son. So what is the space between lives? Hypnotherapist Michael Newton focused his research on exactly that. He brought his patients back to their past lives and then stayed with them after their soul left their past life body. They were telling him what they saw and he wrote it down in his book, The Journey of Souls. There are basically 4 options that can happen after your body dies. Let's start with the worst thing that could happen. There is something close to purgatory in Christianity, but I have to disappoint you. There are no little devils jumping around on the fire and with their tridents. Unless you really, really wish that, then you might be able to create it. The people that have experienced that place call it a dark place. Something where you can reassess your life, where you can think about what you've done wrong and how you might have made other people feel about what you've done. The good thing is, it's not for eternity. As soon as you see your arrows and truly understand what you've done wrong, then there is a beam of light coming and beams you up into the spirit world. There are only a few people who told about this kind of experience, so unless you've done really bad things in your life, you won't stop there on your way to the spirit world. The second option is that your soul stays around your body. This happens especially if there was a sudden death involved, because you would be still confused about where you are and still shocked. I'm like, oh my god, I'm dead now. Those kind of souls are commonly called ghosts. However, they're not here to make our life miserable, even though horror movies are trying to tell us that. They're usually just lost souls that are overwhelmed emotionally. Some of them are trying to contact the livings in order to solve the murder of their body. That's where psychic detectives come in, because they can receive the information and can help tremendously with the investigation of the murder by giving the police the coordinates of the body or accurate details of what has happened. After you released your fears, you feel in peace and you accept that you're dead and it's okay to move on. You have 2 options. Either you go on straight away into a next life, or as some children said, they waited near where they died before going inside their mother. Or the light beam comes and beams you up into the spirit world. And now let's go into the third option. The third option is the spirit world, and that's the most common experience of everyone. Usually you directly go right there, through the light tunnel, into the beautiful spirit world. People say that it's a tremendous feeling of love and peace and harmony there. You're usually welcomed by souls that already died. Like, hi grandma, hi grandpa. And they say hello, and they're all happy that you're back. You're back home. It's like a homecoming. A feeling of coming home after a long journey. Then you meet your spirit guide or guardian angel who's there and helps you, gives you advice and says what you could have done better in the past life or what you've done great in the past life. You kind of review what you've done and what lessons you've learned and what lessons you want to learn for the next lifetime. And then you're also able to communicate with your loved ones that are still incarnated on Earth, usually through dreams or synchronicities. And after a time of healing, love and peace, your soul will be ready to embark on a new adventure on planet Earth in a new body. A note on the side, reincarnation also shows that suicide is not an option. You can't run away from your fears. You have to face them. Even if you end this life early, all you would need to do is start all over again. You have to be reborn as a baby, relearn how to walk and talk, write and read, calculate, and go to school again in order to remember what you already know right now. All the people who remembered their suicides in their past lives regretted them afterwards. There was one lady, she committed suicide because she thought that her husband died at sea. But then, as soon as her soul comes out of the body, she sees that her husband was still alive and he was actually on his way back home. I believe the goal for this life on Earth is to overcome all our fears and to unite in love. And the more we experience and learn, the more we realize that there's nothing we can't overcome. There's no fear that we can't overcome. After having several channeling and out-of-body experiences myself, I have completely released the fear of death. I walked outside of my body, I saw my body lying on the bed. It was an amazing feeling. It feels more real than reality. That's why I can see that all these things that those people say is real, because I felt the exact same way. It's a tremendous feeling of peace and love and a feeling of coming home. And in one of my out-of-body experiences, I even met my grandma, and she was just sitting in the kitchen like nothing happened, like it's the most normal thing. And I said, "Grandma, what you doing here?" And she says, "I'm watching over you." There's no reason to be worried about death. Death is not the end. It's a transformation of consciousness. It's a release of fear and pain. It's a homecoming. You never lose contact with your loved ones. Souls are forever connected. Always remember, you don't have a soul. You are a soul, and you have a body. Next, on the 13th, what is the fourth option that could happen after you die? Thank you for watching. Have a wonderful day. Namaste.